Hi friends, hope you are doing well. Today I'm going to talk about certain cultural aspects you need to keep in mind, especially if you are traveling through the Middle Eastern region. So many people nowadays travel through one of these countries, for example the UAE, through Qatar, through Bahrain, through Saudi Arabia and so on. And there are a lot of students also going to study in these countries. There are people doing PhD, they're doing postdoc, they're doing master's degrees and so on. So I'm going to discuss about some of these cultural aspects which you need to keep in mind, and they not only apply to people who are not Muslim but also people who are Muslim. So at the end of the video I'll give you an example of a Turkish friend of mine who had a peculiar experience when he was staying in Saudi. This was several years ago. Things may have changed now, but it is interesting to know some of these things, because do remember that whenever you go to a foreign country, the laws of that country apply to you. So it's not sufficient to say that I did not know about these laws, or in my country these are not the laws and so on. So you should be cognizant of the laws of any country when you travel there, when you are a student there, when you are doing research there. So I'm going to discuss some of these issues today. So the number one issue is that try not to drink any alcoholic drinks, because this is something which has landed people in trouble every now and then. And this is not just a general fact, but in many of the Middle Eastern countries there are very specific laws. So I know a student who was actually a bachelor's degree student, and he was very used to drinking in Germany, for example. But when he was transiting through Dubai airport, he was drinking at the airport, and he happened to be between the ages of 18 and 21. And in fact, it happened that he was able to drink and come back, but later he came to know that in Dubai you need to drink if you are over 21. You cannot drink below the age of 21. So he could have been in severe trouble in this case. Now there's one more person I saw when I was traveling through Qatar, and this was at Doha airport. And this guy, again I think a student or a software engineer, was terribly drunk. And so at the airport, actually he was misbehaving with some people, and the local police came and they would have put him in jail. It's only because they had a lot of discussions and they found out that he was from a friendly country, and they talked to some people and he was allowed to go forward. So do keep in mind that just because they are allowing you to drink does not mean that they are going to be very nice to you if you behave in any weird manner. And also there are various restrictions on the age of drinking and so on. So as a general principle, I would suggest that do not drink any alcoholic drinks in general. And if you do drink, try not to drink when you are traveling through the Middle Eastern part of the world. Now the number two is to dress modestly, and this not only of course applies to women but also to men. Be sure that you dress in full shirts, full pants and so on. Do not put on shorts, do not put on half shirts, do not roam around without any shirt. So these are all considered not only inappropriate, but they are often considered to be rude and barbaric behavior. So keep in mind that just because the country is permitting you or it is too hot, you cannot dress in a certain way. Now of course for women these things are even more strict. There are various laws about women, and also remember that in different parts of the same country there may be different laws. For example, if you are in Dubai, the laws may be less rigid compared to what are the laws in Sharjah and so on. So as a matter of fact, I would say that try to dress as conservatively as possible. Try to cover up as much of your body as possible. Anyway, you do not want your skin to be exposed to so much heat in most of these desert countries. So this is something to keep in mind. Now the number 3 point is that don't travel by yourself in a lift if there are women going on it. So this is an experience a friend of mine had in Dubai or in one of the UAE countries, and this guy was trying to get into a lift, and it's quite normal in most countries to get into a lift if a woman is getting in. But he was actually told there that this is not appropriate in those countries, because only a male family member or a male person can go in with a woman in a lift, provided they are related to them. So again, do not get in with random women in any lift. You may be in trouble. So again, these are some aspects of laws. Whether they are written or not, I don't know, but be very careful about this. Wait for some time, let several people come and then go in the lift. Let the single lady passenger travel on her own, otherwise things may get negative for you. Now when traveling also, try not to make too much eye contact with people, try not to look at people too much and so on, because very often people may feel that you are staring at them and there may be some negative concepts for this. Now the next thing is about the different type of food you eat and so on. So again, try to be very conscious that there are certain type of food which is not permitted in the Islamic countries. For example, pork is not permitted. So I would say that in general, do not make any request for things such as ham and so on, or try to bring some of these things with you in the airplane. So don't bring any ham sandwiches if you are coming to these countries, etc. Now the next point is about Ramadan, and during this time, as you know, many of the people in the Islamic world are on a very strong fast, so they do not eat anything during the daytime. So during this period, it is important not to go around eating food. So again, I know of some people who got in trouble, and I think this was in Saudi, that they were eating some food during the Ramadan time, and these can have very serious consequences because you are not supposed to do certain things, especially in public places. Do keep things in mind that even at the airport, a lot of things are going to be shut down during this period, during the daytime. So anything you want to do, you want to eat and so on, you have to do it late at night and when the sun has set. So again, this is something you need to keep in mind. Now the next fact is about anybody who is from the LGBT community. Now if you happen to be from these communities, remember that it is illegal in most of the Middle East to be from these communities or to be somebody who espouses that they are from these communities. So I would say that you can try not to go into these regions if you are from any of these communities, or certainly do not say that you are from any of these communities. So as a best practice, I would say do not go to countries where these kind of behaviors are not legal, because it may be very dangerous for you. Finally, I will give you the example of my Turkish friend, and actually he was a professor in a US university and he was going to Saudi as a visiting scientist for some time. And what happened is that this guy had stayed in the US for a long time and become a very secular person. He did not go to the mosque or do any religious activities, and so he was in Saudi, and during Ramadan he was not keeping fast, and also he never went to any mosque or anything. So actually some of his colleagues there reported him to the police there, and it seems there is some law that because he was a Sunni Muslim, he had to follow certain practices, and it's not appropriate not to follow those kind of practices if you are in a country like Saudi. And believe me, the only reason he got off lightly is because he was a US citizen. So the US consulate had intervened on his behalf and he was able to get away. So again, if he had been a Turkish citizen or a citizen from some other country, maybe Pakistan, he would have been in very big trouble. So these are certain important things to keep in mind, that whenever you are going to a country in the Middle East, be sure that you know all the laws which they have on their books, and you need to know that you should not violate any of these laws at any given time, or there may be very severe consequences to these actions. So I hope these points will help you if you are planning to stay in the Middle East for any period of time, or even you are planning to transit through the Middle East, because many of the Middle Eastern carriers like Qatar and UAE provide very good airfares. But do keep in mind that the local sensitivities and the local laws need to be followed even when you are transiting through the airport. So this is very important thing to keep in your mind. So I'll end this video now, and I will see you in a video sometime soon. If you have any particular experiences which were interesting, do put them in the comment section below.